Have you ever noticed how arguments seem to develop a life of their own? One person raises their voice, so the other person raises theirs too. One person becomes defensive, so the other person attacks harder. One person interrupts, so the other person starts interrupting too. It's almost as though both people are following a script they never consciously agreed to. And according to psychologists, that's not far from the truth. Most conflicts escalate because both people unconsciously begin mirroring each other's emotional state. Anger creates more anger. Defensiveness creates more defensiveness. Aggression creates more aggression. The result is predictable. The conversation gets louder, more emotional, and less productive. But what if I told you that one of the fastest ways to stop an argument isn't to win it? It's to break the script. Because the moment you stop behaving the way the other person expects, the entire dynamic changes. Let me show you what that looks like. The first technique is surprisingly simple. Lower your voice. When somebody starts escalating, most people instinctively match their energy. If they become louder, we become louder. If they become more emotional, we become more emotional. But human beings unconsciously synchronize with each other far more than they realize. When you deliberately slow down your speech and lower your voice, the other person's brain begins receiving a very different signal. Instead of adding fuel to the fire, you're removing oxygen from it. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to keep shouting at somebody who is speaking slowly and calmly? The emotional momentum starts breaking. Not every time, but often enough that negotiators, mediators, and crisis professionals use this technique constantly. The second technique is called mirroring. Imagine somebody says, "This isn't fair." Most people immediately respond with an explanation. "No, here's why it is fair." But now you've entered a debate. Instead, try saying, "Oh, I never thought of it that way. Does it feel completely unfair to you?" Notice what's happening. You're not agreeing. You're not surrendering. You're simply reflecting their emotional experience back to them. And something interesting happens when people feel heard. They often stop repeating themselves. Many arguments continue because people don't feel understood. The moment they do, their need to keep pushing often decreases. The third technique is what I call staying in curiosity mode. Most conflicts become dangerous when people start defending themselves, because every defense invites a counterattack. You explain yourself. They explain why your explanation is wrong. You defend yourself again, and the cycle continues. Instead, become curious. Ask, what makes you say that? How did we get to this point? What happened from your perspective? Curiosity changes the entire tone of a conversation. Defensiveness says, "Let me tell you why you're wrong." Curiosity says, "Help me understand." And people respond very differently to those two approaches. The fourth technique might feel uncomfortable. Welcome the silence. Most people are terrified of silence during conflict. The second a pause appears, they rush to fill it. But silence creates psychological pressure. When you remain calm and comfortable with a brief silence, the other person often feels compelled to continue talking. And something fascinating tends to happen. As people keep talking, they frequently move away from raw emotion and toward explanation. Instead of repeating accusations, they begin providing reasons. Instead of attacking, they begin clarifying. Silence creates space for emotions to settle. And sometimes that's exactly what's needed. Finally, there's perhaps the most unusual technique of all. It's called non-complimentary behavior. Human beings expect certain reactions. When somebody attacks verbally, they expect one of two things. Either you'll become submissive, or you'll fight back. Those are the scripts people know. Non-complimentary behavior breaks the script. It means responding in a way the other person never anticipated. Now, I'm not suggesting you start dancing in the middle of an office argument, but the principle is powerful. Imagine somebody aggressively challenges you in a meeting. Instead of becoming defensive, you calmly smile and say, "That's an interesting perspective. Tell me more." Suddenly, the script is broken. The confrontation they expected never arrives. And for a moment, their brain has to stop and reassess what's happening. That moment of confusion often creates an opportunity for the conversation to move in a completely different direction. And that's really the secret behind all of these techniques. Lowering your voice, mirroring their words, staying curious, using silence, breaking the expected script. They're all doing the same thing. They're interrupting the automatic cycle that causes conflicts to spiral. Most people try to win arguments. The people who are best at resolving conflict do something very different. They change the pattern. Because when you change the pattern, you change the outcome. And sometimes that's all it takes to end a conflict before it becomes a fight. Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling completely misunderstood? Try these techniques next time. If you're interested in the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior, relationships, workplaces, and human interactions, subscribe now. New videos every week.